The great chamber of Zephyria Prime stretched beyond what most beings could see in a single glance. 12 different species sat around the massive circular table that floated in the center of the room. Each representative came from worlds that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. The air hummed with translation devices that turned every word into sounds each species could understand. Admiral Kethvar of the Altarian fleet stood before the council. His blue skin gleamed under the artificial lights as he activated the holographic display. Images of human colonies appeared in the air above the table. Ships moved between planets. Cities grew larger each year. The numbers kept climbing. "Honored council members," Kethvar began, his voice carrying across the chamber. "What you see before you is the greatest threat our galaxy has ever faced." The Vorthon representative leaned forward. Her 6 arms moved in patterns that showed confusion. "These are just another young species. They have been in space for less than 200 of their years. How can they threaten us?" Kethvar touched a control, and the display changed. It showed a human settlement on a world covered in acid rain. The humans wore simple protective suits and worked outside their domed cities. "This is Kepler 442c. The atmosphere burns through most metals in hours. The Zephyrians tried to establish a mining operation there 3 centuries ago. They lasted 4 days before retreating." He touched another control. "The humans have been there for 15 years. They have not just survived, they have thrived. They have built 3 cities and a spaceport. They processed the acid into fuel for their ships." Murmurs rippled around the table. The crystalline delegates' form shifted colors from blue to deep purple. This meant concern in their language. "Show them the Titan colony," said General Vexthul of the Crimson Hegemony. His red eyes glowed brighter as he spoke. The display shifted again. This time it showed humans working in conditions that would freeze most species solid in seconds. They moved between buildings connected by tunnels. Massive machines pumped heat from deep underground. Children played in parks inside transparent domes. "Saturn's moon Titan," Kethvar explained. "Surface temperature minus 180 degrees. Atmosphere filled with methane and hydrogen cyanide. The humans call it a bit chilly in their language." The eldest member of the council spoke for the first time. Zarthek had ruled the Eternal Dominion for over 4,000 years. When he spoke, others listened. "You show us adaptation. This is not unusual. Many species adapt to harsh worlds." "With respect, Ancient One," Kethvar replied, "what I show you is not simple adaptation. Watch this." The hologram changed to show a human research station. Scientists in the image worked with samples of an unknown substance. The timestamp showed the recording was only 3 months old. "This is from their research facility on Europa. 6 weeks ago, we sent a probe containing a sample of hegemony bioweapon, the deadliest virus we have ever created. It can kill any known life form in minutes." The chamber fell silent. Even the translation devices seemed to pause. The humans did not die from exposure. They studied it. They learned how it worked. Then, they created a cure. In 6 weeks, they solved what took our best scientists 2 centuries to develop. General Vexthul stood up from his seat. "They do not just adapt to environments. They adapt to everything. Weapons, diseases, technology they have never seen before. They take what should destroy them and make it work for them." The Aquarian representative's tentacles writhed in patterns that showed fear. "How fast are they expanding?" Kethvar brought up a new display. It showed the human territory from 50 years ago compared to now. The difference was shocking. "They have tripled their territory in the last 50 years. At this rate, they will reach the border systems of the Outer Rim in less than 30 years. "That cannot be allowed," said the Vorthon delegate. "The Outer Rim systems feed half the galaxy." "There is more," Kethvar continued. "Their military technology advances at an impossible rate. 50 years ago, they could barely reach their own moon. Now they have weapons that can destroy small moons. Their ships can travel faster than some of our older vessels. The hologram showed human warships. They looked crude compared to the elegant, alien designs, but the weapons signatures were impressive for such a young species. Most concerning of all, General Vexthul added, they do not follow predictable patterns. Our strategic computers cannot calculate their next moves. They make decisions based on emotion and instinct rather than logic. This makes them extremely dangerous in conflict. Zarthek raised one ancient hand. You believe they will eventually challenge us for control of the galaxy. I believe they will not need to challenge us, Kethvar replied. If left unchecked, they will simply expand until they control everything. They reproduce faster than most species. They adapt to any environment. They advance technologically at unprecedented rates. And they never surrender. The chamber filled with the sounds of different species discussing among themselves. Clicks, whistles, harmonic tones, and sounds no human ear could process mixed together. The crystalline delegates, form turned bright red. What do you propose? Kethvar looked around the table at each representative. Complete elimination. Every human colony, every human ship, every human settlement in the galaxy. We must act now while we still have the advantage of superior numbers and technology. That is genocide, the Aquarian pointed out. We are not murderers. We are not murderers, agreed General Vexthul. We are survivors. The humans will not stop expanding. They cannot help themselves. It is their nature. In 100 years, there will be no room in this galaxy for any other species. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates argued for peaceful contact. Others suggested containment. But as Kethvar presented more data about human expansion and adaptability, the mood shifted. Finally, Zarthek called for silence. We will vote. All in favor of the elimination protocol? One by one, the representatives voted. The crystalline delegate was first. Red for yes. The Vorthon delegate's 6 arms moved in agreement. The Aquarian's tentacles formed the pattern for acceptance. When the count finished, it was unanimous. 12 species had agreed to wipe out humanity before humanity could wipe out everyone else. Let the records show, Zarthek announced, that on this day, the Galactic Council authorized the complete elimination of the species known as humans. Admiral Kethvar, you will coordinate the combined fleets. General Vexthul, your Crimson Hegemony will lead the first strike. How long do we have? Asked the Vorthon delegate. Kethvar studied his tactical displays. Our fleets can be in position around their home system in 72 hours. We will begin with their outer colonies and work inward. The humans will not have time to mount a defense. As the council session ended, none of the delegates realized that their communications had been intercepted by a human listening post. The message was already racing through space toward Earth at faster-than-light speeds. The countdown to war had begun. Commander Jake Morrison stared at the display screen in his small quarters aboard the orbital defense platform New Houston. The intercepted alien transmission played for the 3rd time, and each viewing made his stomach tighten with dread. The translation software had taken 2 hours to decode the message, but the meaning was crystal clear. Jake reached for his communication device and sent an emergency signal to Earth Defense Command. Within minutes, his screen lit up with the face of Admiral Kate Sullivan, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes showing the fatigue of someone who had been dealing with crisis after crisis. Morrison, your message said Priority Alpha. What have you got? Jake transmitted the decoded alien communication. He watched Sullivan's face change as she read through the council's decision. Her jaw tightened and her hands gripped the edge of her desk. How reliable is this intelligence? She asked. Source is confirmed authentic. The transmission came through the Kepler relay network. Our listening posts have been tracking increased alien fleet movements for the past week. This explains why. Sullivan nodded grimly. How much time do we have? Based on their known ship speeds and fleet positions, maybe 60 hours before they reach the outer colonies. Earth has perhaps 90 hours. The Admiral closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, Jake could see the weight of command settling on her shoulders. I'm calling an emergency session of the Defense Council. Keep monitoring all alien communications. If you pick up anything else, send it immediately. The connection ended, leaving Jake alone with the terrible knowledge that humanity was about to face extinction. He turned back to his instruments and began scanning space for any sign of the approaching fleets. 3,000 miles below on Mars, Dr. Lisa Grant was having trouble sleeping. She had been working late in her laboratory at Mars Station Alpha when the energy readings began appearing on her sensors. At first, she thought it was equipment malfunction. The readings were too large to be real ships. Lisa ran the scans again, adjusting her equipment to filter out background radiation. The results came back the same. Massive objects were moving toward the inner solar system at incredible speeds. The energy signatures suggested ships, but ships larger than anything humanity had ever built. She pulled up the database of known alien vessels that Earth's intelligence services had compiled over the years. None of the signatures matched. These were something new and far more dangerous than anything humans had encountered before. Lisa activated the emergency communication system and sent her data to Earth. The transmission would take several minutes to reach the home planet, but every second counted now. On Earth, President Helen Carter sat in the emergency bunker beneath Washington as reports flooded in from across the planet. The intercepted alien message had been confirmed by 3 separate intelligence sources. Alien fleets were moving toward human space with obvious hostile intent. General Pete Harrison stood before the assembled Defense Council, his weathered face showing the strain of preparing for an impossible war. Maps and tactical displays covered every wall of the Situation Room. Ladies and gentlemen, the general began, we are facing the greatest threat in human history. Our intelligence estimates suggest we are outnumbered by at least 1,000 to 1. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours in most areas. Secretary of Defense Nancy Wells leaned forward. What are our options? Harrison brought up a display showing human military assets. We have 47 ships capable of deep space combat. The aliens are bringing at least 50,000. Our planetary defense systems can handle small attacks, but not fleets of this size. So we surrender? Asked Senator Bob Turner, his voice shaking slightly. No, President Carter said firmly. We fight. Even if the odds are impossible, we fight. That is what humans do. Dr. Grant's data arrived during the meeting, confirming what everyone feared. The alien fleets were even larger than initial estimates suggested. The energy readings indicated weapons capable of destroying entire cities with single shots. Meanwhile, on the mining colony of Kepler 438b, Mayor Dan Cooper was dealing with his own crisis. The colony's long-range sensors had detected ships approaching their system. The vessels did not respond to communication attempts and were not transmitting standard identification codes. Amy Rodriguez, the colony's security chief, studied the tactical display in the command center. Her experience in the Earth Defense Force told her these were warships, not explorers or traders. How long until they arrive? Cooper asked. 6 hours, maybe less. Their approach vector suggests they are not planning to enter orbit. They are coming in fast and straight toward the colony. Cooper activated the colony-wide communication system. All residents, this is Mayor Cooper. We have detected unidentified ships approaching our system. As a precaution, all civilians should move to the underground shelters immediately. This is not a drill. The colony had been built with the possibility of meteor strikes in mind, so extensive underground facilities already existed. 3,000. Colonists began moving into the protected areas, taking essential supplies and hoping this was just a false alarm. Rodriguez contacted the orbital defense platforms that protected the colony. 2 small weapon platforms and a handful of patrol ships were all they had for protection. Against the approaching fleet, it would not be enough. Captain Rick Turner was piloting his cargo ship Blue Phoenix toward Kepler 438b when his sensors picked up the alien fleet. The massive ships appeared on his displays like a wall of metal and energy moving through space. Turner had served in the Merchant Marine for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. He tried to contact the colony to warn them, but found that communications were being jammed. The alien ships were broadcasting some kind of interference that blocked most radio frequencies. Turner pushed his engines to maximum power, hoping to reach the colony before the fleet arrived. As he approached the planet, Turner could see the alien ships taking positions around Kepler 438b. They moved with mechanical precision, surrounding the world in a perfect sphere. Whatever they planned to do, they wanted to make sure nothing escaped. The first shots came without warning. Beams of energy lanced down from the alien ships, striking the orbital defense platforms. The small human installations exploded in brilliant flashes of light, their metal structures vaporizing under the alien assault. Turner watched in horror as the peaceful mining colony became a battlefield. The underground shelters might protect the civilians from the first wave of attacks, but the aliens clearly intended to make sure nothing survived on the planet's surface. He activated his emergency beacon and began recording everything his sensors could detect. If he could not save the colony, at least he could provide intelligence about the enemy weapons and tactics. Turner set course for the planet's surface, knowing he was probably flying toward his death but unable to abandon the people below. The war for humanity's survival had begun, and the first battle was already being lost. The explosions on Kepler 438b lit up space like deadly fireworks as Captain Rick Turner pushed his cargo ship through the debris field that had once been the colony's orbital defenses. His ship shook violently as alien energy beams passed close, enough to overload his shields. Turner gritted his teeth and kept flying toward the planet's surface. Below him, the mining colony was under full assault. The alien ships had surrounded the planet and were systematically destroying everything humans had built. Cities that had taken decades to construct vanished in seconds under the concentrated fire. The protective domes that kept the acid atmosphere out-cracked and shattered, exposing the underground shelters to the poisonous air. Turner spotted survivors running between damaged buildings. Mayor Cooper and Security Chief Rodriguez were trying to coordinate an evacuation to the deepest shelters. Turner brought his ship down in the colony's main landing area, ignoring the energy beams that scorched the ground around him. "This is Captain Turner of the Blue Phoenix," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Emergency evacuation available. All survivors to the landing pad immediately." Cooper's voice crackled through the static. "Turner, get out of here. They are targeting anything that moves." "Not leaving without you," Turner replied as he lowered his cargo ramps. "How many people are left?" Rodriguez appeared at the edge of the landing pad, helping injured colonists move toward the ship. "Maybe 60 people still alive. The shelters are compromised. The acid is seeping in." Turner watched his sensors as the alien ships repositioned themselves. They were preparing for something bigger than the bombardment. Energy readings suggested they were charging weapons capable of destroying the entire planet's surface. "Everyone aboard now," Turner shouted. "We have maybe 2 minutes." The survivors ran toward the Blue Phoenix as alien fighters swept overhead. The small ships strafed the landing area, but Turner noticed something strange. Their shots were precise but not perfectly accurate. The aliens seemed to be having trouble hitting fast-moving targets. As the last survivor climbed aboard, Turner sealed the ship and launched into space. Behind them, the alien fleet unleashed a coordinated strike that turned the planet's surface into molten rock. The mining colony that had been humanity's pride was now nothing but cooling lava. Turner set course for the nearest human outpost, his cargo hold packed with 57 survivors who had witnessed the beginning of humanity's extinction. Among them, Mayor Cooper and Chief Rodriguez began planning how to warn other colonies about what was coming. On Mars Station Alpha, Dr. Lisa Grant was working frantically with her team to understand the alien technology. The energy readings from the attack on Kepler 438b had provided valuable data about alien weapons and ship designs. What she discovered gave her the first hope humanity had seen since the crisis began. "Tony, look at these power distribution patterns," she said to engineer Tony Walsh, who had been helping analyze the alien ship signatures. "Their weapons are incredibly powerful, but they drain massive amounts of energy from their engines." Walsh studied the data on his screen. "So they have to choose between moving fast and shooting hard." "Exactly. And look at their formation patterns during the attack. Perfect geometric arrangements, no variation, no adaptation to changing conditions." Walsh began to understand what Grant was suggesting. They fight like machines, programmed responses to expected situations. Grant pulled up more data from the battle. Every ship moved in exactly the same way when they encountered resistance. No improvisation, no individual decision-making. If we can create situations they have not programmed responses for, we might be able to confuse them. The two scientists worked through the night, developing what they called the Prometheus Protocol. The idea was simple but revolutionary. Human ships that could rapidly change their configuration during battle, switching between different weapon and engine arrangements depending on the situation. "It will not make our ships more powerful," Grant explained to Tony, "but it will make us unpredictable. If their computers cannot calculate our next move, we gain an advantage." Meanwhile, Commander Morrison aboard New Houston was coordinating humanity's first real military response. Admiral Sullivan had given him command of every available ship in the outer system, a grand total of 12 vessels ranging from military patrol boats to converted mining ships. Morrison studied the tactical display showing alien fleet movements. The enemy was advancing methodically, destroying one human outpost after another in a straight line toward Earth. Their pattern was logical but predictable. "They are treating this like pest control," Morrison told his assembled captains via video link. "Systematic elimination of every human presence, but they are not expecting us to fight back effectively." Captain Kelly Brooks, a former test pilot who now commanded a converted racing ship, leaned forward on her screen. "What do you have in mind, Commander?" Morrison highlighted an area on the tactical map. "Asteroid Belt 7, dense field, lots of debris, unstable gravitational conditions. Not the kind of place their formation tactics will work well." The plan was desperate but simple. Morrison's small fleet would use the asteroid field as cover and try to ambush part of the alien formation. They would rely on human intuition and improvisation to overcome superior alien technology. Brooks grinned at the challenge. "When do we start?" 6 hours. That gives us time to modify our ships using Dr. Grant's new protocol data. We are going to show these aliens that humans do not die quietly." As Morrison's fleet prepared for battle, similar preparations were happening across human space. Civilian ships were being converted to fighters, mining equipment was being turned into weapons, and desperate plans were taking shape in command centers from Mars to the outer colonies. The aliens had superior numbers and technology, but they had made one crucial mistake. They assumed humans would behave like every other species they had conquered, logically, predictably, and with self-preservation as the primary goal. General Vexthul of the Crimson Hegemony stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the systematic destruction of human colonies. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The humans were offering minimal resistance, and their primitive weapons barely scratched the alien ship hulls. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, "we are detecting increased human ship movements in the asteroid regions." Vexthul studied the display. Small groups of human vessels were moving erratically through dangerous areas of space. "Probably trying to escape. Have the pursuit squadrons eliminate them." "Yes, Admiral." But as the alien pursuit ships entered, The asteroid field, they encountered something their computers had not prepared them for. The human ships were not running away, they were setting a trap, and they were using the chaotic environment in ways the aliens had never considered possible. The Battle of Asteroid Belt 7 was about to begin, and for the first time since the war started, humans were going to surprise their enemies. The asteroid field stretched for millions of miles in every direction, filled with spinning rocks the size of mountains and debris clouds that could shred a ship's hull in seconds. Commander Morrison watched from his bridge as 12 human ships took positions among the floating stones, waiting for the alien pursuit squadron to arrive. Captain Kelly Brooks had positioned her racing ship behind a massive iron asteroid, her engines powered down to minimum levels to avoid detection. Through her viewports, she could see the sleek alien vessels approaching in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming like polished metal in the starlight. "All ships, hold position," Morrison broadcast on the secured channel. "Let them get deep, into the field before we move." The alien squadron consisted of 24 ships, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything in Morrison's fleet. But the alien commander was flying them in tight formation, treating the asteroid field like empty space. Their computers were calculating safe paths between the larger rocks while ignoring the smaller debris. Brooks watched as the lead alien ship passed within a few hundred meters of her hiding spot. She could see the alien crew through their transparent hull sections, tall beings in dark uniforms standing at control stations. They moved with mechanical precision, following predetermined patterns without deviation. "Now!" Morrison's voice crackled through the communications. Brooks fired her engines and shot out from behind the asteroid, her ship spinning and weaving between chunks of rock in a pattern that would have been impossible to predict. Her weapons locked onto the nearest alien vessel and fired a concentrated burst of energy. The alien ship's shields absorbed most of the damage, but the surprise attack caused their formation to break apart. Suddenly, 24 alien ships were scattered throughout the asteroid field, their tactical computers struggling to recalculate optimal positions while avoiding collision with the floating rocks. Morrison's ship emerged from concealment behind a cluster of small asteroids, firing as it moved. His modified engines allowed him to change direction without warning, dodging the alien return fire while staying close to the protective rocks. The aliens tried to reform their formation, but every time they began to organize, another human ship would appear from unexpected cover and force them to scatter again. Captain Brooks used her racing experience to fly patterns that seemed suicidal, but kept her ship safely away from the alien weapons. "Their targeting computers cannot track us," Brooks reported over the radio. "They keep firing where we were, not where we are going." Morrison realized that Brooks had discovered something crucial. The aliens were not just following formation, patterns. They were predicting human movements based on logical flight paths. When humans flew illogically, the alien computers could not calculate where to shoot. "All ships, embrace the chaos," Morrison ordered. "Fly like madmen. Trust your instincts, not your instruments." What followed was unlike any space battle in history. Human ships performed impossible maneuvers, using gravitational effects from the asteroids to change direction in ways that defied physics textbooks. They flew through debris fields that should have destroyed them, following paths that their own computers said were suicidal. The aliens, meanwhile, found themselves unable to adapt. Their ships were faster and more powerful, but they could not maneuver effectively in the chaotic environment. Several alien vessels collided with asteroids while trying to maintain formation. Others were caught in debris clouds when they failed to predict the random movement patterns of the floating rocks. Lieutenant Ben Murphy, commanding a converted mining ship, found himself face-to-face with an alien cruiser 3 times the size of his vessel. Instead of retreating, Murphy did something the aliens did not expect. He rammed his ship directly into the alien hull, using his mining drill to breach their armor. "Murphy! What are you doing?" Morrison shouted over the radio. "Going aboard," Murphy replied calmly as his ship locked onto the alien vessel. They cannot shoot what they cannot understand. Murphy led a boarding party of 6 humans armed with nothing but EVA suits and mining tools. They cut through the alien hull and entered the ship's corridors, finding themselves in an environment designed for beings twice their size. The aliens aboard the ship had never faced boarding actions. Their security protocols assumed threats would come from outside, not from inside their own vessel. Murphy's team moved through the ship like ghosts, using maintenance passages and utility conduits that the aliens had never considered as potential attack routes. Within an hour, Murphy's team had captured the alien bridge and taken control of their ship's computer systems. The intelligence they gathered revealed the location of the alien fleet's main command center, and more importantly, the weakness in their battle coordination systems. Dr. Alan Price, working in his laboratory on Europa, received Murphy's intelligence, data, and immediately understood its significance. The aliens were using centralized battle computers that coordinated all their ship's movements. If those computers could be disrupted, entire alien fleets would lose their ability to fight effectively. Price had been studying samples of alien bioweapons captured from previous encounters. He discovered that the aliens had engineered their viruses to be perfectly lethal to most known life forms, but they had never encountered anything like human immune systems. Humans had evolved on a planet filled with diseases, plagues, and biological threats. Their immune systems were not just defensive, they were adaptive. Human bodies could learn to fight new threats and even turn hostile organisms to their advantage. Price began developing what he called adaptive countermeasures, modified human viruses that could infiltrate alien computer systems and cause them to malfunction. The organic computers the aliens used were vulnerable to biological attacks in ways they had never considered. If we can introduce these modified organisms into their ship networks, Price explained to Dr. Grant over subspace communication, their battle computers will start making random decisions instead of coordinated ones. Meanwhile, the Battle of Asteroid Belt 7 was reaching its climax. Morrison's small fleet had destroyed or disabled half the alien squadron, but at a terrible cost. 8 of his 12 ships had been destroyed or damaged beyond repair. Captain Brooks found her ship surrounded by 3 alien vessels, their combined firepower more than enough to vaporize her ship. But instead of surrendering or trying to escape, Brooks did something that left the alien tactical computers completely confused. She shut down all her ship's systems and allowed it to drift like debris among the asteroids. The aliens, programmed to target active threats, lost track of her ship when it stopped moving and transmitting energy signatures. Brooks waited until the alien ships moved past her position, then reactivated her systems and struck from behind. Her surprise attack destroyed 1 alien ship and severely damaged another before they could respond. "Commander," Brooks reported to Morrison, "I think we just proved something important. These aliens cannot think outside their programming. If we can stay unpredictable, we can beat them." Morrison looked at his tactical display, showing the scattered remains of what had once been a perfectly organized alien squadron. Human ships were emerging from hiding spots throughout the asteroid field, having survived through courage, creativity, and sheer stubborn refusal to follow logical tactical doctrine. "All ships set course for Earth," Morrison ordered. "We have intelligence to deliver and a war to win." The aliens had superior technology and overwhelming numbers, but they had never fought an enemy that turned desperation into victory and chaos into strategy. The tide of war was beginning to turn. The massive alien mothership Dominion of Eternity hung in space above Earth like a dark moon, its hull stretching for 50 miles in every direction. Supreme Commander Zalthus stood on the bridge watching the final preparations for humanity's extinction. Around the mothership, 3,000 alien vessels formed perfect attack formations, their weapons charged and ready to turn Earth's surface into molten glass. Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded the desperate human fleet from the bridge of her flagship. New York, a converted cargo hauler that had been fitted with every weapon humanity could spare. Around her, 200 ships of every size and type, prepared for what everyone knew would be humanity's last battle. "Admiral," reported communications. "Officer Nancy Price, we are receiving surrender demands from the alien flagship. They want us to stand down and allow the planetary bombardment to proceed." Sullivan looked at the tactical display showing the impossible odds they faced. 3,000 alien ships against 200 human vessels, most of them civilian craft, crewed by volunteers who had never seen combat before today. "Send them our response," Sullivan replied. "Tell them humans do not surrender." Engineer Sam Rodriguez, working frantically in the bowels of Earth's power grid control center, made the final connections that would link every power plant on the planet into a single massive circuit. His sister Amy had died defending the colonies, and Sam was determined that her sacrifice would not be meaningless. "President Carter," Sam reported over the secured communication line, "the planetary EMP grid is ready. When you give the word, we can generate an electromagnetic pulse that will disable every electronic device in near-Earth space." President Carter, aboard a command ship hidden behind Earth's moon, understood what Sam was proposing. "That will disable our ships too." "Yes, ma'am. But it will also shut down their weapons and engines. After that, it becomes a matter of who fights better when technology is taken away." On the surface of Earth, millions of people watched the sky through every available telescope and camera as the alien fleet prepared to attack. In cities and towns around the world, humans made their final preparations. If the fleet failed, the people below would face the aliens directly. Dr. Price's biological countermeasures had been loaded aboard every human ship in the fleet. The modified viruses were designed to infiltrate alien computer systems and cause their coordination networks to malfunction. But the plan required human ships to get close enough to the alien vessels to deploy the biological weapons. Captain Kelly Brooks, now commanding a squadron of modified racing ships, studied her approach. Vector to the alien mothership. Her mission was to penetrate the alien defenses and deliver Price's countermeasures directly to the command vessel's computer core. "All pilots, remember what we learned in the asteroid field," Brooks broadcast to her squadron. "Fly unpredictably. Trust your instincts. Make them guess what we will do next." The battle began when the alien fleet opened fire with their long-range weapons. Beams of energy lanced across space toward the human ships. But Admiral Sullivan had positioned her fleet in a chaotic formation that made it impossible for the aliens to predict which ships to target first. Human vessels scattered in every direction, some diving toward Earth's atmosphere, others climbing toward the moon, and many simply spinning through space in patterns that seemed random but kept them away from the alien weapons fire. The aliens tried to reform their attack formations, but every time they organized into their preferred geometric patterns, clusters of human ships would appear from unexpected directions and force them to break apart again. Lieutenant Murphy, now commanding the captured alien cruiser he had taken, in the asteroid battle, used his prize to confuse the enemy fleet. The alien ship's identification systems recognized his vessel as friendly, allowing him to move deep into their formations before revealing his true nature. "This is Murphy," he reported to Admiral Sullivan. "I am inside their perimeter and deploying. Price's countermeasures now." Murphy's ship released clouds of the modified biological agents into space. The microscopic organisms spread through the vacuum, seeking the organic computer networks that controlled the alien vessels. Within minutes, the effects became visible. Alien ships began firing on each other as their targeting computers malfunctioned. Some vessels stopped moving entirely as their navigation systems crashed. Others spun out of control as their engines received contradictory commands. But the alien mothership remained unaffected, protected by isolation barriers that kept the biological agents away from its core systems. Supreme Commander Zalthus watched the chaos spreading through his fleet with growing fury. "Activate emergency protocols," he ordered. "All ships, independent operations. Destroy everything human." The alien fleet abandoned their formation tactics and began attacking with desperate fury. Without central coordination, they fought more like wild animals than disciplined soldiers. The battle became a massive free-for-all with ships from both sides scattered across millions of miles of space. President Carter watched the battle from her command ship and realized this was humanity's moment. "Sam, activate the EMP grid. Now!" On Earth's surface, every power plant on the planet suddenly dumped its energy into the massive circuit Sam had created. The discharge was visible from space as lightning arced between the continents. The electromagnetic pulse raced outward from Earth at the speed of light, washing over every ship in the battle zone. Human and alien vessels alike went dark as their electronic systems overloaded and shut down. For a few moments, space around Earth was filled with hundreds of drifting ships, their crews suddenly cut off from their technology and forced to rely on emergency life support. But the humans had prepared for this moment. Every ship in their fleet carried manual controls and backup systems designed to function without computers. Within minutes, human vessels began reactivating their engines and weapons using purely mechanical systems. The aliens, dependent on their advanced technology, found themselves helpless. Their ships were floating targets, unable to maneuver or fight back effectively. Admiral Sullivan's voice crackled over the manual radio systems. "All ships, boarding actions authorized. Take those alien vessels." What followed was unlike any battle. In galactic history, human crews in EVA suits swarmed over the disabled alien ships, cutting through hulls with mining tools and welding torches. They fought their way through corridors designed for much larger beings, using their smaller size and desperate courage to overcome alien defenders who had never imagined fighting without technological support. President Carter herself led a boarding party onto the alien mothership, determined to face the enemy commanders directly. Her team fought through the massive vessel's corridors, following maps downloaded from Murphy's captured cruiser. They found Supreme Commander Zalthus on the bridge, surrounded by his staff officers who stood frozen with shock at seeing humans aboard their flagship. The alien commander was tall and imposing, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed with inner fire. "You cannot win," Zalthus said in heavily accented English. "Even if you defeat this fleet, there are millions more ships in the galaxy. The Council will send them all to destroy you." Carter stepped forward, her simple human weapons aimed at the alien commander. "Then they will learn what you learned today. Humans do not give up. We do not surrender, and we do not die quietly." Zalthus looked around at his disabled fleet, at his crew cowering before creatures they had dismissed as primitive animals, and at the impossible fact that humans had turned certain defeat into victory through sheer refusal to accept the inevitable. "What are you?" he asked. Carter smiled. "We are human, and this is our galaxy now, too." The surviving alien ships that could still function retreated from Earth's system, carrying word back to the Galactic Council that humanity was not another species to be easily eliminated. The war was over, but the real change was just beginning. Humans had earned their place among the stars through blood, courage, and the stubborn refusal to believe that any fight was hopeless. In the years that followed, the galaxy would learn to respect the species that turned desperation into strength and chaos into victory. The Council's order to eliminate all Earthlings had failed, and the universe would never be the same.